Hi everyone, it's Mandy again, and here we are today doing our TTC, Time to Chat. And today we have Jessica who's joining us here, which we're very excited to hear her journey, and we're very grateful for her joining us. So hi Jessica.
Hi.
So that's a great way actually to start in with this. So TTC, Time to Chat, we're starting with you this week. Last week was me, and it just kind of connecting with different people in the community and giving other people a voice. And so my first question actually would be just that. Did you want to tell us a little bit about your fertility journey and how you found FMC?
So my fertility journey started in officially like in 2016 when we started to try to conceive, and because I was 34 going on 35, it was a toss up between if I was going to go for a year with trying to conceive or if it was going to be the 6 months. But and I just where I worked in the medical field, I knew it was a year, so I didn't even check with my doctor seeing what she would do. And it turns out she said I would have lied and said it was over a year that you've been trying to conceive, where I was on that fine line between 34 and 35. She said I wouldn't have taken the chance. Like a 6 months would have been sufficient. I would have, referred you after 6 months, but I didn't know that, so I just went my full year. And you know, the first 6 months weren't. I wasn't expecting miracles because I mean, I had hadn't been trying, so I said, my body has to get used to being on its own and not being on a birth control. Um, so for the first 6 months, I didn't question or didn't. I knew it was there. It could take time for the medications to get out of my system and my body to readjust to, you know, having cycles the regular way and things like that. And then after a year, um, still hadn't conceived. So we then got referred to a gynecologist, and thankfully it went quick. And it was quick that she just said, "Okay, we're going to send you for tests." And in those tests, they've discovered that I had problems that they had to go in do a laparoscopy just to check things out and to fix. I had problems with my cervix, so things like that had to be fixed. And then while they were there, they checked if my tubes were, blocked or not. And so then it turned out that there was one blocked tube that she said, and the other one wasn't blocked. So my chances were a little bit lower. And so we tried to conceive. Then she sent us on our own for a bit and said, anytime you want, we can refer you to the fertility clinic.
Okay.
So after 6 months, we did go to the fertility clinic because it did not work, and then started doing tests for them as well, and did another HSC, like, and I was like, well, I already did one, and my tube was blocked, and it wasn't a pleasant experience if anyone's ever had HSC.
Yeah, anyone
So
out there who's had one, we know that often those aren't the most pleasant experiences, are
and
they?
that's where they discovered when I did my first one that they couldn't even do it. So I went through all that pain for nothing. So that wasn't too fun. So then when they said I had to do a second one, I said, well, okay, but I said you know I I didn't want to go through that pain and have the same result. But it ended up that both my tubes were unblocked. They
Oh,
so he said maybe because they went laparoscopically the first time that it may have, you know false the results, that maybe there was an air pocket, that's just why the dye didn't go on one side or things like that. So I said, well, at least I got a different result, and I got a different. So then we went ahead with 3 IUIs that were unsuccessful. So then, then it was, okay, do we do IAVF? Do we call it quits? And but we decided to go for one IVF cycle. But unfortunately, in my retrieval, I only retrieved 2 eggs, and neither one fertilized. So I didn't make it to transfer. So that's kind of where I am now.
that's
That
really hard. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure it's been a long road.
Yeah, it has. Yep.
And thank you. We really appreciate you sharing that. So that's kind of where you guys are at right now, right? And
Yeah,
navigating that.
yeah. My failed IVF was in July, so yeah, so it's
It's still fresh.
still fresh. Yeah.
And so during going through something like that, well, there's a lot that you went through, right? You went through your laparoscopy, which is surgery, and there's a healing process after that, and a few different clinics, and then the IVF. Where did you find support through that? Because support's really important when we're navigating this journey.
And I think that was one of the hardest parts is I only found Fertility Matters, and I only found there's a group for the clinic where I go to that it's all like patients of that clinic that kind of just share stories and share experiences. I only found that community. I had already gone through 3 IUIs. It was just really between my IUIs and my IVF while we were waiting for the funding and, getting money, like, because we don't have like I heard from you in Ottawa, you have one funded cycle.
We have one funded cycle in Ontario.
Yeah, like we don't have one funded cycle, so we have to pay everything up front, and then we do get some money back after the fact. However, have to have the money up front. So between my IUIs and my IVF, that's where I found the community on Conceptia, the the website, the Facebook group, and Fertility Matters, and that's where but for the 3 IUIs, I was really alone. Like it was, and like I don't have friends that are close to me that have the same experiences. Like they've had different experiences and they've had their own journeys, but none with infertility. Some have lost, but have ended up conceiving, but I had never conceived, so that they had a different path that I had. So I felt really alone in my journey because they didn't understand mine as much as maybe I don't understand theirs. But so I felt really alone. But when I found the group for Fertility Matters, and when I found the group for the clinic where I go to, that's when we started sharing stories, and I found people that had the same experiences I had, people that have been through what I've been through, and they could explain, okay, that's why they did this, and that's why. What did you do when this happened, and what did you do? So just having that people just to chat with, and when I was feeling alone, I could reach out to a few that I became close to kind of say, how are you feeling today, or what are you taking your injection today? How did your injection go? Kind of thing, like
just those check-ins, and that little like almost like camaraderie or like that companionship of someone that is gone through something similar to you.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you were able to find that community, because it can be incredibly isolating, and I'm sure 3 IUIs on your own is not for the weak, right? And I really appreciate you sharing that, and I'm sorry that you went through that on your own.
Yeah, no. I mean, my husband was there, but
Yes, but for example, finding someone that you can chat with, right? In that community, I find our community can be so close because we know that someone might feel alone. So you can just send a text, be like, oh, I remember you're starting your injections today. How's that going?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing about that. So what have you learned? If you could tell us 1 or 2 things that you've learned throughout this journey about yourself, about the journey itself, or infertility.
Just that I'm stronger than I thought I would be. And also that, things don't always go as planned, and, but, that, and do what feels good for you and go as far as you feel comfortable. Like some people stop after 1 IUI, some people go the 3 IUIs, some people keep going with IUIs. So like, I didn't even know that was an option. Like, but also like I watched your video and you said like advocating for yourself. Like for the first 3 IUIs, I just kind of went with the flow. Like they told me, okay, you have to do this. You come on this day and do this blood work. And I never asked why. And I never said, okay, well, why is my this level high? Why is that level high? What can that do? What, I didn't know how to advocate for myself. And even with my IVF, I learned a lot of stuff after my IVF, like also the acupuncture. They mentioned that like 2 days before my retrieval that I said, well, and then it was a toss up. Okay, can she do acupuncture? Well, can she even get an appointment? Because it was COVID at the time as well. So
Oh,
can she even get an appointment? And, and I was like, why wasn't this brought up to my attention like before? Like not acupuncture the day before I'm going for my,
of course,
because
right? Because sometimes there's even a wait list just to get into your intake appointment. That's what I found. It's not an overnight. Oh,
no,
we're
so then it was a toss up like, okay, and then the nurses and the doctor were going back and forth. Well, can she? Because it was the electro acupuncture that they send. So they said that might not be safe for transfer. That might not be safe for retrieval. I said, so it was just, information that, didn't get brought up to me until too late. So I wasn't able to go for acupuncture because, like you said, an intake appointment, you can't just call an acupuncturist and say, can you take me now or today or tomorrow? Like, and that's, kind of just what, so just like information that wasn't shared and then with me and things like that. So,
and that can be incredibly overwhelming, right? Especially trying to navigate it as a patient. And like you said, we don't know. We only know what we're learning about with as our feet are getting wet and you're going through with emotions.
Yeah.
That I think is a really good thing to highlight because it's true. I find a lot of people are learning that as they go, right? And unfortunately, you do have to be your biggest advocate. And it's so easy with health professionals, right? To just kind of go, okay. And sometimes you don't know like that it's okay to ask those questions and it's okay for you to say, but wait, why are these levels this higher? What am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
If you had to go back or something stuck out in your mind of something that you would have done differently, and if there's nothing, that's okay, but if there's something that hindsight now that you might do differently or going forward?
Just more advocate for myself and, ask more questions and don't just like, not, no, don't trust the professionals, but kind of just question where they're going with what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing and what can I do to make that better? Is there something I can do? Because the acupuncture could have been brought up before, and even like little tricks like that I got from fellow patients, like drinking pomegranate juice makes you have a better lining. Eat pineapples after transfer and things like that I didn't know, and they didn't share that information. But eating McDonald's fries the day of your just like little things like that might be superstitious and might be, but my lining was good because I drank pomegranate juice. So was it that? Was it not? I'll just say it was.
And
things like that.
Exactly, right? And I don't know about you, but even like you said, even if it might be a little superstition rather than fact, it's having control of something that you can do, right? You can be a key role and a player in your treatment plan. And if that means getting those McDonald's fries, if it makes you feel like you're doing something that you have control over, then why not, right?
Yeah. And then, just sharing stories with other girls, like, cause I was really close to like 2 other girls that were in the group, and we kind of just touched base, and I was like, did you eat fries? Cause you had transfer today, and, and things like that. And she's like, yes, I did. And, and then I was like, when am I supposed to drink my pomegranate juice again? And she said, from this day to this day. Okay. And when do I eat pineapples? I had bought pineapples. I had bought, pomegranate juice. And I said, when do I eat what? Because it was in midst of, COVID
And there's so much.
and IVF. And I was just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be drinking when. And I was doing my stimulation injection. So I'm like, when am I supposed to take what? Like,
So don't forget, then you definitely had that gone left brain going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so it was just like things like that. I was like, no, but.
Yeah, and I'm chuckling because I'm sure that there'll be so many viewers who are watching this and they've all drank that pomegranate juice. And I can definitely attest that my husband pulled over the day of our transfer and we got some McDonald's fries and I couldn't stomach finishing them, but I did it.
Yeah.
And finally, I just had one last question. I was wondering, if you could think of something, if you were meeting someone right now who was just starting on their journey and they said, hey, Jessica, what would you, if you had one thing to share with me, what would you share with them?
Join a group like Fertility Matters, and join a group, because even like when I started my journey, I had started my own like little trying to conceive New Brunswick group, but but because not that I was hiding the fact that I was struggling, but I didn't want everybody to know that I was struggling with infertility. Like, but then I found, getting it out there, just saying like, hey, the answer to your question of when I'm going to have a child is, I'm trying. It's not that I don't want one, because, people don't, they just say, oh, well, she's, you know, in her 30s, I wonder when she's going to have a child, instead of, saying, well, maybe I shouldn't ask the question, or, so but then when I found the group, just find people to confide in, and people to to lean on when you're having a bad day. They can support you, and you can support them on their bad days, and be their cheering team. Like, I mean, the two other girls that I was in a group with that got close to it, like, they're both pregnant, and I'm just over the moon and for them, because and just I'm their biggest fan and cheering them on. How are you feeling? I like to touch base with them every now and then, just kind of say like, how are you feeling? you know Even though I'm not on that same journey as of yet, just kind of find someone to who's going through the same thing, just because it can be very lonely. It's a lonely journey, and not everybody understands it, and that's fine. Like, that, just find somebody that you can lean on and bounce questions off of, and and advocate for yourself as well. Like, you need to advocate, and before it's too late, that they tell you you need acupuncture the day before you transfer, before you retrieve. But
And I appreciate that. And thank you. Those are two super important points. And it's true, it is lonely. And I'm so glad that you were able to find some connections. And it's true, you do need to advocate for yourself, because you're your biggest fan, right? And you're the person that's going to put that out there. And like you mentioned earlier, you know what your boundaries are, you know what you're comfortable with in this journey. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And we're sending all our love your way. And I really appreciate you taking this chance to speak out about your journey. And if anyone else gets anything from this, they can see how strong you are, and they're going to know to kind of advocate for themselves, and that they aren't out there alone. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
and thank you for having me.
Of course.